I would think she has shown quite a few narcissistic tendencies in the past, particularly in things like the Oprah Winfrey interview. I think there was a lot of narcissism in that.
What did you make about the claims about Meghan? I mean, start with psycho moments. I mean, these are all allegations. Allegedly over the phone, treated people like um, chewed people up in person. What was kind of your reaction to these allegations, Hugo?
Well, I'm afraid I'm not surprised by these allegations because even when she was at Windsor, I remember, hearing from very good sources that there was trouble. There was a time when she was very rude to one of the under gardeners at Windsor when they were at Frogmore Cottage, and the head gardener went to complain to the Queen, and the Queen went down and ticked her off because the Queen obviously didn't like people being rude to staff. So, having heard that story, none of these other stories surprise me. She probably is not very good with staff or with people that she's employing or people that she's getting flowers from and things like that. It's just very unattractive because you should always be very polite to people who work for you and people that you deal with over the telephone, because otherwise they're going to get very put out, and they're going to, when things start going wrong, they'll be happy to answer questions by the media, I guess. Well, I think probably quite a lot of actresses have a narcissistic side to them. Yes, I agree with you. Of course, it can be very stressful leading up to a wedding, but once again, this is when your true character comes out. We can all be very polite. When things are going well, it's when we're under stress that you see people getting annoyed and getting aggressive and so forth. So once again, I'm afraid it doesn't surprise me. I would think she has shown quite a few narcissistic tendencies in the past, particularly in things like the Oprah Winfrey interview. I think there was a lot of narcissism in that. So once again, I'm not surprised, I'm afraid. It's just not very attractive, not a very attractive characteristic. Well, I mean, screaming at somebody for 30 minutes does sound a slight exaggeration because, that requires quite a lot of effort, doesn't it? But let's assume that it was just a little bit less than that. But once again, if you're working with a florist and you're employing them, and something goes wrong, that you can reply perfectly politely, and you can express your annoyance at what's so supposedly gone wrong without shouting at them. And I think this particular florist, when I read the article, was saying that even though they very much liked having the custom of somebody like Meghan Markle, it was all too much and just not going to deal with her anymore. And so that shows how serious it is. I think this is a very well researched article, by the way, and something that one should take very seriously. And it comes in response, of course, to her team putting out a lot of statements saying that she's the most wonderful person to work for, and so on, which is again, kind of, I suppose that's a kind of narcissistic thing, and a sort of the fact that she felt the need to do that means that she feels the need to try and squash these allegations, and I'm afraid she's failed to do so. Well, I think a lot of things hastened their exit from the royal family, but I think I've always thought that she always had this plan, that I think she really liked the idea of working within the system, and because the system is tough, it's that if you join the royal family, you're there to serve, and it's not all a great laugh a minute. I mean, they have a very, very tight program and tight schedules and things. And the sad thing is that they could have been absolutely amazing as a sort of new, fresh kind of pair in the royal family. And I think that trip to Australia that they did was very successful. The African trip rather less so. But I always felt that she probably did have a plan that by marrying Prince Harry, she gets the status, and then at some point they can depart and commercialize that. Whether that's going to, in the long run, be successful, I'm not so sure. In the short term, I think it probably was, but these things don't last forever. Equally, of course, I think that she detected in Prince Harry a certain amount of dissatisfaction with his role in life, although it's a shame because he was actually very, very good at what he did. And I've said this before, but I found a photograph lying on the floor. I'm a bit disorganized, and I thought, oh, look, there he is. Look, he looks really happy, dating 2015, which is pre-Meghan. And that's why he doesn't look so happy now, I'm afraid. I can't obviously tell you what his reaction is going to be, but I would imagine that he would be very irritated by it and depressed by it because it's not an attractive thing to have said about you. Um, so it's difficult for me to say exactly what you know. I can't tell you what he thinks, but that's what he should be thinking, if I can put it like that. There seems to be an awful lot of things that have been happening in the last sort of few days and weeks, don't there? And it doesn't look as though things are going terribly well. I mean, we've been discussing this for some days now in different aspects, including the fact that Prince Harry is now, has been in New York on his own without Meghan Markle, and it seems that he's going to go to Lesotho without her. I think that's what I was told, and so that there seems to be a lot of sort of confusion and therefore a lot of thinking about what the future holds. And articles like this are not going to help them in any way at all, because this is going to end up being branded as extremely difficult, rather disagreeable people, and nobody wants to work for people like that.
Yeah, I wanted to go circle back a little bit to the article that her, people that are kind of favourable to Meghan's point of view put out. Do you want to expand a little bit more on, your reaction to that? Because it's quite unusual that it seems to have almost become a little bit of a tit for tat. Do you know what I mean?
But I think that's what's going on the whole time. One person says one thing and another person says another thing. I mean, certainly, as you will have discovered, and as I discover, if you say anything about Meghan Markle, there are still a lot of people who are very, very supportive of her, and they accuse you of getting at her unfairly and saying, that she's really wonderful and doing an amazing job. And there are people who still think that. I personally don't, but it's just that I don't like the way things have turned out. I don't like the way, that they attacked the royal family. All the sort of, if you start casting sort of javelins at people in public, you're going to get a reaction. Again, I can only tell you what I think, which is that I think a lot of their popularity has diminished as a result of the book Spare and some of the recent interviews and things, because I think that most reasonable people, and like somebody in a middle America, is going to think actually doesn't really like the idea of somebody being rude about his father in public. You just don't need to do that. These things should be kept private. So they have brought a lot of this trouble on themselves by these different things. And I suppose the reason that they do them is because they're commercially viable, or seem to be at the time. They get paid a lot
Mm.
of money to do these interviews.